Marketing That Works is the podcast for business owners who want to move their brand forward so that they can bring in more sales and clients. I'm Danielle Harris, and I'm bringing you what I know from more than 12 years of experience in traditional and online marketing. I have created marketing strategies for businesses of all sizes, from multi-million-dollar corporations to early-stage online businesses. Remember, some marketers chase fads. I believe in mastering the fundamentals. Welcome to a very special Q&A episode of Marketing That Works. I've got questions here from coaches, I've got questions here from service providers, and I want to make sure that I'm not just answering these questions one off. I want to make sure that this entire community can be able to benefit from my responses because I know that some of you all have some of these exact same questions. So I want to be able to do more of these type of Q&A episodes. So you can go to the link in the show notes and be able to submit a question of your own, and I will go through and I'll answer it right here on the podcast. All right, so let's get into the very first question. This first question is submitted anonymously from a coach who's been in business for more than 5 years at this point. And the question that they ask is, how do you know if you have a marketing problem or a sales problem? And so before I even answer this, I want us to all be clear on the difference between marketing and sales. And this is an example that I gave, I want to say towards the very, very beginning of this podcast, but I want to use the example of Marriott hotels. All right. So marketing in the sense of Marriott hotels is that, oh, you know that we have hotels around the world. You know that we have locations here. You know all of these things. You are aware of the brand. You are aware of the image. You are aware of the aesthetic, the vibe, all of those things. You are aware of it. That is the marketing portion of it. Sales is the booking page. It's you clicking reserve my space. It is you going back through and saying, yep, this is the room. I want the queen. I want it on the 10th floor. You pick all of those things out and you click check out, reserve my spot, got the confirmation number, right? And so a lot of times marketing and sales can kind of blend together, but ultimately sales is that final click, purchase, bought it portion of it. And marketing gets you all the way up to that sales checkout portion of it, right? So that being the case, how do you know if you have a marketing problem or a sales problem? If people are not even getting to your sales page, if people are not even going and checking out, if you're a coach and you do sales calls, if people are not booking sales calls with you, then that is a marketing problem. A sales problem would be people are booking calls and maybe not showing up, or people are booking calls to talk with you on the sales call and then they are not converting on the call. That is a sales problem. And so if you have a marketing problem, then you need to be looking at a couple things. You need to first be looking at, okay, am I talking to the right audience? Am I talking about it to this audience often enough? Am I getting in front of enough new people? Right? So those could be things to talk about and think about when it comes to marketing. When it comes to sales, it could be, am I addressing all of their objections? Am I going through and am I making it easy for them to buy? Am I making sure that it's as seamless as possible? Am I giving people enough options for, pricing and all of these other aspects of it? Those are things that you need to think about for both of those scenarios. Now, marketing can help with sales, and the better that you sell, you can help with marketing. It's kind of an ongoing circle. They are separate things, but they often work together. So when it comes to being able to figure out and diagnose which one is which, that is a very simple way to do it. If you don't have people that are DMing you, if you don't have people emailing you saying like, oh my gosh, how can I work with you? If you don't have those things happening, that's a marketing issue. If you have people that are DMing you and saying like, oh my gosh, I would love to work with you. If you have people saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to book a call. I'm going to go and work with you. And they do book that and they get in on a call, but they don't end up converting. That is a sales problem. The next question that I have is from a service provider who has also been in business for over 5 years. And what they wrote in is this: for some reason, the idea of a framework repels me. I think it's because it feels like it will be exactly the same advice for me and some other person who might need something totally different. Okay, so let me just reference real quick that I do have an episode all about frameworks. I actually think I have a couple, episode 49 and 49. Go check out one or both of those when it comes to frameworks. This question is something that I actually hear quite frequently of like, oh, I don't have a framework. Like I have all of my questions or all of my answers are super custom. They are really tailored to each person that I work with and nothing is just cookie cutter. And I get that, right? I understand where you're coming from. You're just like, what my problem is different from this other person, and there's no way that a framework that works for one person could work for someone else. Like it can't be. It has to be unique. It has to be highly customized. But even people who provide super customized services that are unique to each and every person, they have a process and framework to make sure that they are able to deliver custom experiences, right? So let's think about fashion designers, right? So they will have people that have dramatically different body shapes, people that have completely different styles, people that like completely different things. Some people might like things super form fitting. Some people like things very flowy and billowy. Some people like more of like a structured format. Some people like things that are just like, oh yeah, very like ethereal looking. All types of things when it comes to fashion. And when they design things, they all start with a common process. They get in touch with what is it that my client wants. They sketch things out. They take measurements. They do all of these things to design and create something that is custom and unique, right? They have a process and a framework for that. And every single piece is going to be different. That is the same thing when it comes to you and your own frameworks. The solution that you have for, let's say, if you're a money coach and you are working with someone who is, $50,000 in debt versus when you're working with someone who has, a $2 million net worth, right? You have your own philosophies and beliefs and frameworks, but the solutions and the things that you work on with the person who is in debt will be different than the person that you work with who has a high net worth. That doesn't mean that you don't have the same philosophies across the board, right? There is a logic to why it is that you direct people to do the things that they do. And you have certain checkpoints along the way that makes it easy for them to have an answer and solution. That's just how a framework works. I think the true thing that scares people when it comes to frameworks is the fact that they have been given advice that is not relevant to them at some point. And so they then say like, oh, it's because that they had frameworks and systems, and because they had frameworks and it didn't feel like it worked for me and they gave me wrong advice, that like anybody that has frameworks or systems or curriculums or all of these things, like it can't possibly work. I have to have everything custom. And I understand that you went to someone and they gave you advice that didn't work. But let's go back to this fashion analogy that I had. It's like likely what happened that you went to a tailor to get your shoes done, right? And so a person who works on shoes is going to give you shoe custom frameworks versus a tailor is going to give you tailoring type of thing. They are all in fashion, right? They all are, but they're going to look at things through the framework and the lens of that. And so it's also making sure that you're going to the right person for the right things. And so with that, for the cobbler, the person that's going to make the shoe, that they will make you custom shoes all day, and they are right. They are right to measure your foot, your insole. They're right to get the right type of leather. If you're getting a leather or faux leather or suede or like whatever it is, whatever material that you're going to use, like they are doing all the custom things, doing all the right steps for that process. But you were looking for a dress, so obviously going to rub up against each other. It's not going to work out. You have to make sure that the frameworks are going to be right. Frameworks are not inherently bad. It's just all about how you are putting it in place. There's always a proper framework for a proper thing. It's all about how it's being applied and the situation that you're in. If you're just like, I'm in need of shoes, going and knocking at the door of a tailor, It's not going to be helpful. Going and knocking on the door of a cobbler, someone who makes custom shoes, like that's the type of framework that you're going to want to go to. All right. I don't know why I went down that particular rabbit hole with tailors and cobblers, but we are going to run with it. I have Christian Siriano on the brain right now from Project Runway fame. Okay, so the next question comes from another service provider. And this service provider has been in business for about 3 to 5 years. And here's the situation that they lay out for us. They say that they have a client that they're working with and they want to create a new lead generation source and they want to have it be a private podcast. Now, this client of hers is a coach and is relatively new in the industry. Not a lot of people know them. And so the question is, does it make sense to have a private podcast that is simply dedicated to sharing this person's story? So people that know me know that I love talking about sharing your story in your marketing. You can go back to my first early 3 episodes. That's literally fully dedicated to telling your story in your marketing. But I say that with the caveat. The point and focus of telling your story in your marketing is not just to tell your story in your marketing. The goal is to make sure that it connects to what your clients and what your people want. You never tell your story just to say oh my gosh, this is me, and this is all about all the things that I've done and been able to do. No, you always have to frame it through the lens of what do your people want. So if you want to have a private podcast as a lead gen, which honestly I think is wonderful. I think it's brilliant. It's a great way if you don't want to have another PDF. And I think people love just listening to workshops via podcast versus, instant replays and all these other things. So I actually think that's a brilliant idea. But instead of just having it framed around oh yeah, I just want to talk and share my story and have people get value from that, you need to make sure that if you're telling a story, it's from the lens of a result that your people want to have. So let's say, I don't know what type of coach this person is working with, but let's say that you are a money coach. You need to be talking about the fact that maybe you were able to pay off $100,000 in debt. And so you'd be telling the story of learn how I paid off $100,000 in debt so that you might be able to do that also. Or let's say that you are a weight loss coach and you're talking about, how you were able to lose, 50 pounds of baby weight. Or say that you're a marketing person, you can have a private podcast that's come behind the scenes of how I had a $100,000 launch or $80,000 launch, all the details, all the behind the scenes. And this is framed from a perspective of, okay, that is a type of result that I want to have. I want to get the inside deeds of how they were able to do that so I can try to do that myself, or at least try to work with this person because they clearly seem to have it figured out. You are never telling your story just for the sake of just yeah, I'm going to yap and tell my story and just talk and have this podcast to just yap about. That's not what you're trying to do. As a business owner, you're always trying to tell a story from the perspective of how can this be of service to the people that I want to work with. That's always how you're trying to frame that. So that would be the advice that I would give to the service provider who was talking about doing this lead gen. But honestly, I love the private podcast idea. Yeah, more people should do that. More people should have their replays of their webinars and things as podcasts or private podcasts, because I'm not going to sit there and watch your thing, but I will listen to it. But that's my own little private tangent from there. I want to say thank you so much for the people who submitted in questions. I do have a few more, but I would love to be able to do more of these types of podcast episodes. If you have a question that you would love for me to answer, love for me to have some perspective on, please feel free, again, to go to the show notes. You can be able to find the link there to be able to submit your own question. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon. If you want more marketing that works right in your inbox, head to the show notes and sign up for the email list. You'll be the first to know how you can work with me on mastering your marketing.